All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Monday Morning Mindset Podcast. Paul McLean here. And like I say every week, and I mean it, I hope you feel my heart behind it. It is an absolute privilege and honor to come on and hopefully impart some great value to you. The desire is every week you get a little bit better. In fact, I talked to an agent yesterday. He's like, man, I made a big sale, and he was excited. I said, the good news is this, man. He said, what? I said, you suck. He's like, what? It's like, you suck. Like, this is the worst you're ever going to be, because the desire and goal is that you continue through experience and great repetition to get better. Not only that, but you have great coaching and those around you that have already gone the way before you that can say, do this, don't do that. And so ultimately, it's almost an impossibility that you don't continue to get better every single week. And so my desire today is to really give you something that unequivocally will make a massive difference and help you get better, help your business get better. So today, we're talking all things profitability. So if you want to be a business owner that has great profit, this is for you. In fact, the number one goal in business is what? That's to stay in business. And you got to stay in business. And you only can stay in business if you're running a profitable business. So we're going to really unpack what that looks like, how to build a great book of business, clients that you serve that are raving fans, that love you, that would never entertain another agent trying to replace the policy, that when they talk to their friends and family, they talk about you. You got referrals coming in. You got people calling you that you're adding, policies to that doesn't take any additional lead investment. After 30, 60 days, you don't open up your commission statement and say, what the heck, man? Bob's policy lapse? Like you don't see that anymore. Now, are you going to still see it? Yes, but if we can reduce that significant. Let me give you guys a quick illustration. We'll jump right into these exact concepts, principles, what to say, and how to do it. But look at this. If you go out and I believe that anybody can do this, I really do. If you go out and you hit 400,000 issue paid volume, right? You hit that president circle, member, like you hit the 400,000. If your persistency is 60%, that's what you keep, 60% of 400,000. So you can say, Paul, that ain't bad. It's, 200 and some thousand. Okay. But what if it went from 60% to 80%? If you grew your persistency 20% and you went out and you issue paid 400,000, what's 20% of 400,000? That's $80,000 in additional income. That's not you working harder. That's not you working more. That's just you doing a couple little things differently to increase persistency. And now you make and keep, or you keep an additional $80,000. What could you do with 80,000? Well, heck, you could put that $80,000 in an account, and over 10 years, that 80,000 could become, seven figures. Like, you could take that 80,000, and what I would suggest is you put it in your business, you hire a recruiter, you run some recruiting ads. And now that 80,000 allows you to get to a place where, maybe in 12 months, you're running a business that's doing 500,000 in issue paid volume because you had so much money to pour into the business. And whatever you feed grows. We all know that with our bodies, right? It also happens with your business. And so now that 80,000 has led to 500,000 a month in issue paid team volume. And maybe you got a 20% spread, and a 20% spread on that is a seven-figure income. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is this stuff matters. It's a big deal. And so step one is this: as you go looking to build greater persistency and keeping the clients on the books, keeping the client for life, which is a desire, the first thing you got to make sure you unpack is how good of a job are you doing at building the why. Like, when value exceeds price, people buy. But when value exceeds future emotional disdain or distress, where their budget gets tight, or an agent calls them and they want to kind of replace what you wrote, when you've created such a great value, they're not going to move from that policy. So value is super important, not just for making the sale, but keeping the policy on the book. Now, there's multiple different ways that you can build value. One of them is, in the beginning, letting them know little subtle things like, I know how important this is for you. Is it fair to assume that when you sent back in the request, like most families, you wanted to make sure if you didn't come home, or when you don't come home, or if you didn't wake up, that your family wouldn't go through this financial disarray? Is that kind of what you had in mind? Well, yeah, it is. Okay, great. And then the value is also done through the financial inventory. I've seen a lot of people just rush through the financial inventory. The financial inventory, what it does is it takes something that they really can't hold on to, takes something that they're not going to be able to experience, because once you've experienced it, they're already gone, and it takes it and makes it real. So remember this: human beings, we don't know the difference between what we actually imagine and what we experience. The best leaders And what you are is you're a leader. You're influencing your client to make a buying decision. So this goes for your clients, this goes for your agents, this goes for your family. Anybody in your circle that you have influence on, you're leading them. And so a leader's job is to create a vision that's so compelling that it moves the person to action that walks them towards that vision. And so what that means is this: if you're creating a great financial inventory through all these questions and being intentional and not just rushing through it, the client is going to start to imagine something that they maybe haven't really thought about. They haven't put the details on it. And so it's not really moved them emotionally. But when you can go through, Bob, your income's this. Mary, your income's this. Bob, if you don't come home, the income goes to this. Mary, what would that look like for you? How would that financially impact your ability to pay the bills and take care of everything? It would be hard. Well, what would that look like? It's called driving depth and why. You don't just ask one why. It's like, well, what would that look like? And why would that be important? And why does that matter? Same thing that we need to do for ourselves. The reality is, for anybody that's on there that's not going the extra mile in any area of your life, or maybe that's even in the sales process with the client, you haven't really got deep with your why. Like, I just want to make a bunch of money. Okay, great. Why? Well, because I want to take care of my family. Well, why? Because I just grew up and it was always a struggle. I had no, memories or experiences where we could just go out and not have to worry about money. Well, why? Well, I don't want to have to stress about money or fight about money. Well, why? Well, my parents divorced when I was a kid because they were always fighting about money. Got it. So you keep going deep, and now it's like, okay, now we've got some depth to it. You want to make sure that there's no financial hardship, that you don't stress about money. And so just like a client, the deeper you can get with the why, the stronger the value is, the more likely they are to keep it. And when the storms come, and the storm could be another client calling to try to replace your business, the storm could be the budget gets tight, the storm could be all of a sudden their job gets furloughed, whatever it is, they don't let this go because they see it as too valuable to let go of. And so building a good why throughout the whole thing. That's very, very important. Increased value. The reality is this: people will cancel a policy when there's too much emotion and not enough logic, or too much logic and not enough emotion. There's a balance between the two. What I mean by that is, if you get so emotional and they're so like they're living in this story, right? And like I said, your body doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what you experience. Like, they feel the emotions as if it's actually already happened. And they're so emotional, they're like, man, I got this client crying, but you didn't support logic. The logic is making it affordable. The logic is like making sure the premium is something that they can actually sustain and keep. The logic is going through the product features and what it actually does. Like, it's a 30-year plan, you get your money back. If you're just so heavy in the emotion and there's no logic, when the emotion wears off, they'll be like, well, what was this again? Like, what? And I can't afford that. And so logic also has to meet emotion. The logic is understanding their budget, talking about the product features, and so they actually know what that looks like. Now, if you go through all the product features, and I've seen agents do this, like, they're like an informational specialist, man. They know everything about the product. Like, they get the client knows exactly what the accelerated death benefit is, how to use it, who to call, the number to call, all these things. But if there's no emotion, they won't even buy the policy, because people buy from emotion. Emotion leads to motion, but you also got to have logic. So both are important. And so really increasing value throughout the process is so essential to ensure that your policy is going to stay on the books. Now, even as you go and you're getting into the options, the last thing I'll say with the value that I think most people miss is that I'm always looking for ways for the door to get open, and where if I can talk about a concept or talk about something I need to talk about anyways, but I can add value and emotionalize the why to it, I'm always going to want to do that, because that's how I continue to drive depth in the why. So instead of me just saying this policy is, $100,000, and so when you pass away, your family's going to get $100,000 to help take care of the mortgage, I go into more detail with it. So it's not just 100,000 and it's $100 a month. No, what does it do? So talking about what it is logic, it's surface. Talking about what it does ties the logic to the emotion. And so I could say, no, listen, Evan, the policy here, what this will do, this plan here, option one, is $100,000 for 100 a month. So if you passed away, or when you pass away, right away, your wife's not going to have to worry about what to do financially. The mortgage payments that are going to be coming still, because although you're gone, the bank, the creditors, they all still show up every month with their handout. This 100,000 will be a check that gets put in your wife's hand so she can make those payments long enough. And that $200,000 in equity that's in the home, it doesn't go back to the bank. And as you get older and hope that God that you don't pass away anytime soon, that equity continues to grow. So that 100,000 continues to protect even more. And if she decides to sell the house, she could use that additional 100,000 that's left over to help replace your income, to help get into the next, house. But she has options. Option two is 70,000. And then you just go through that as well. So it's what it does, not what it is. What it does is what sells. What it is doesn't sell nothing. And so really important to continue to add those features into it. So step one is, are you doing a good job building value? That will increase your close ratio, but that will also increase your persistency ratio. It'll increase both. So make sure you're developing great value. All right, step number two is this. You want to help make sure that the client feels great about what they did. One thing that I learned a long time ago, and I can't remember what book I read this in, but I definitely read it in a book. I'd love to take credit for it, but I didn't come up with this. But it was people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And so you want to make them feel great about the decision they made. They're going to forget what you said, but they're not going to forget that feeling that they had when you actually helped them with the plan. Now, how can you help them make them feel great about it? I can say things at the very end like, Evan, I just want to let you know, bro, like, not that maybe it matters that it's coming from me, but I've done this quite a while, and it's always really, I guess, comforting to me to know that there's men out there like you that make it a priority and they take care of their family, that they don't just think about it, but they take action on it. The truth is this, I mean, to me, and I've done this quite a while, it's kind of like a faith builder. It builds up your faith in who you are because we're called to leave an inheritance to our kids, our children's children, and it's our job to make sure that our family's taken care of, not just while we're here and while we're gone. And to me, anytime that I see somebody take action, which I do all day, but I just want to say congratulations, man, on taking care of your family. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. Just something like that, even though it sounds small, it edifies what they did and who they are. And so again, they'll forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And we all should know this. There's not many times, especially as we become an adult, that people are just going out there raining praises and talking about how great somebody is. They're starving for it. Most people are starving for admiration, for praise, for affirmation, for validation. Like they're starving for it. And so when you give it to them, man, they don't want to let go. They won't forget how you made them feel. And so make them feel good about their decision. Like, man, it's great to see. And there's no question, man, that you're going to have, I had a client say, hey, this is kind of like peace of mind insurance. And I kind of tend to agree. It gives you that peace of mind that although we can't control if we wake up, when we wake up, when we're going to die, you can control making sure that when you die, there's not a ruin behind your legacy and your family's name, that you've set them up and they're going to be protected and provided for. And so pretty cool to see, man. And congratulations, you got some good peace of mind insurance now. Even something like that is going to provide this sense of like, man, I feel great about the decision I made. So next step is this, make them feel really good about what they did. Step number three is this, help them pre-decide to make the right choice in the future. What I mean by that is this, there's going to be changes in their budget. There's going to be things that take place. There's no question. I mean, like if you've sold a client a policy for 20 years, 30 years or whatever, it'd be crazy not to think that in the next 20 years, there's not going to be some kind of economic shift or change that's going to possibly impact that client. So what I want to do is help them pre-decide that when they're in this position, when finances kind of put some pressure on them, and they've got to make a decision to cut some fat and let some things go, that they don't let go of this policy. So I'm going to walk them through when that happens and help them pre-decide what their choice is going to be when that takes place. Very important. In fact, this is very important for every single person. This is something I try to do every day. I try to make pre-decisions that, hey, when I go through my day and I get tempted to pull up my phone and start, scroll on Instagram, anytime I have that temptation, what that's going to lead me to do is call the next family or call the agent I need to call. So I try to pre-decide so that way when it comes up, where my mind goes is something that I've already thought before the emotion showed up, before the stress, before the temptation showed up, what I'm going to choose. And so that puts me in a much higher position to choose the right choice, the leveled up choice, the better choice. So I want to do the same thing for the client. So I'm going to say, Evan, listen, man. Um, the reality is this: things are going to take place, man. I hope that you go from glory to glory, man. I hope that your financial situation just continues to abound, and I'm believing that it will. But the reality is this: we don't know, and the truth is, in a year, 2, 3 years, 6 months, things can shift financially, stuff can happen, and I just want you to, you know, really ensure that this is something that never you let go of, because I could tell you the hardest conversations we've had in our office, and it's ones that we've had prior, is a client spouse calls and they reach out and they're just going through the most difficult thing they could ever go through. It's a nightmare. They just lost their spouse. Everything about their day is now forever different. And when they're calling, it's almost like this call of hope of like, although I can't bring my husband back, although I got to tell kids that daddy's not coming home, although my whole life will be forever different, I'm not going to lose my house. I'm not going to have to worry about getting two jobs. I'm not going to have to worry about that. So they call, and it's this call of hope. And we have to pull up the policy. And we've had it where we tell the client, I'm so sorry, but 7 weeks ago, your husband called in and let the policy go because it got tight. And their husband, their spouse, was going to get the plan back in place when their budget got back. That was what they were telling themselves, but they ended up passing. And so I just want to encourage you, man. Things are going to happen. Things will take place possibly. When they do and if they do, just remember, man, like this is the most important thing. So pre-decide that when things take place, that you'll never let this go, that this is kind of a bedrock. This is kind of like food on the table, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And obviously, as you get older, it costs more money. It's harder to qualify. But more important than all of that is like this is, the staple that you never want to kind of undo in with what you've provided for your family. Does that make sense? And then they say yes. So I'm helping them pre-decide, but I'm also using kind of this philosophy of reciprocation, like or I'm sorry, consistency. People want to be consistent with what they say and what they commit to. And so if I could say, can you just make sure you commit to that to me, that when things get tight, that this is something you don't ever let go of? And they say yes. Now, when it does happen, and the budget gets tight, or they're like, they got to transfer money or whatever it is, and they're like, oh shoot, I got that policy coming out, they're more likely to do it. So little subtle things that you might not think makes a big difference. I promise you, it makes a big difference. I had one year where my persistency was like 72%, and I made some of these adjustments because I really made it a focus of like, okay, what am I doing? Just kind of like not paying attention and not really analyzing the different flows of my presentation of things I'm doing to increase persistency. And I added these certain things and my persistency went from 72% to over 90%. So big deal will make a big difference. All right, next thing is this. You want to kill the competition, because that's one way that your persistency gets wrecked is you have competition. How do you kill the competition? How you do that is this. You say, so Payne, also, I just want to let you know that, a lot of families, maybe you did or didn't, but they'll fill out a couple forms, a couple different requests. And some of those are tied to like a captive company. All that means is it's just a salesperson that's working there and they work for one carrier or what have you. Um, and what'll take place is they'll call and they get paid to like actually make a sale. Now I filled underwrite, so it's a little different. Whatever you do didn't make no difference to me. But they'll do whatever they can, say whatever they can to try to manipulate and get you to buy a policy. And usually what that looks like is they'll try to poke holes. They'll make it seem what you have is not what you have. They'll make it seem like what they're offering is something different than what it's offering. Like they'll do whatever they can. I've done this a while and I've seen it multiple times. We actually had a client that had an agent that called and they made it seem like they were calling from my office. And so they acted like they were calling on our behalf. They ended up getting them to sign into the policy, so that they hadn't finished up. And I kind of, needed some additional underwriting signatures. And the client called and they were mad after like 5 months because they had the premium coming out twice with Foresters. So we looked into it and realized that they had two policies. He sold them a whole nother policy. And because they had double the protection, The company would have passed, paid out if they died, they couldn't get their premium back. And so just know that if somebody calls you, if it's not me, then it's not from my office. I'll be the one that serves you from here on in forever. Like I'm not going anywhere. And so I'm here to take care of it. Does that make sense? So if anybody calls, just be on guard and just kind of hop off the phone as quickly as possible. So I'm kind of again helping them, walking them through what that's going to look like because guess what? The odds are they're going to get a phone call. It's very common that they will get a phone call. All right, next one is this, and I got to wrap up here quickly. So adding additional service through follow up is important. So what I mean by that is this: when you give a client a call to follow up because the policy's now been active, and you should call back within a day or 2, 3 days once it's been approved. Say, hey, congratulations. Just want to let you know the policy should be coming out to you. Again, you go back through making them feel great. Hey, just congratulations, I'm making a great decision. And you make them feel good again, right? And then you go back into, by the way, we also have a system in place because, Evan, a lot of times when a family, and it actually would blow your mind if you look it up, it's like billions of dollars in unpaid death claims where the companies don't pay out to their family. It's not because they don't want to, it's because they don't know that the client passed away. And to give you kind of an illustration of how this happens is let's just say, 5 years from now, you pass away. Well, maybe your wife's already gone too now. Maybe you pass away and your wife passes before you and your kids are the beneficiaries. Well, the bank will freeze the account when somebody passes away. So nothing comes in and out, nobody can access it. So because it's frozen, the carrier doesn't get the premium. After 90 days, Foresters is not knocking on the door saying, "Hey, Evan, are you still alive?" Like they don't send a representative to your house. They just assume that you lapse the policy, you didn't make the payment. And so if the family member doesn't know who to call, they'll never be able to notify the carrier to start the process to pay out the death claim. And so, because of that, we've added a free service in our office called Emergency Response Network. So, we help put together a network to ensure that doesn't happen. So, what that looks like is the people that you trust that are probably less likely to just lose my information. We let them know that I'm your agent. We let them know my phone number, the policy details as far as the carrier. And so when something happens, if like 10 people have this information, quite a few will lose it week one. Maybe a couple more lose it after 6 months. Maybe a couple more lose it after 3 years. But after, 5, 10, 15, no matter when something happens, at least one or two people will have my information. And man, it's been such a blessing. A lot of times we'll have a beneficiary call in when their spouse passes and they'll let us know. And it's 4 weeks after the fact because they've just been going through an immense amount of grieving and mourning through that. And they'll say, I wanted to inform you. And we've already got the process going because their sister called us and the death claim is already being processed and the check's already in the mail. And so we'll set that up for you. And just basically the way it looks is I'll give them a call and let them know that I'm your field underwriter. And if anything ever happens, save my information so I can go ahead and start the process. Does that make sense? Yeah, great. Who's the first person to put down? Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? And you don't ask, is there anybody else? You just say who's next until you get as many as you can. The goal is 10. You let them know the goal is 10. And then, you give those people a call. You've got them now for referrals as well. And we have a whole video that talks about referrals and how to unpack that and how to call them and add additional policies. Last one is this. And by the way, that there helps you with referrals, which is profitability, which is the premise of this call was how do you increase profitability? But it also strengthens that sell because you've exceeded expectation. You identified a problem that they maybe didn't know existed, and then you provided a solution. That's where you exceed expectation. When you exceed expectation, they hold on to it. They don't let go of the policy, and they continue to let people know that you're the person they should go to. No different than if you went to a restaurant and they did some crazy things that exceeded expectation. It wasn't just a normal meal. They came out and they gave you a dessert and some cookies to go. They gave you like a bottle of wine on your way out, like when they dropped off the check, like, hey, this is just for you to kind of enjoy, before you take off, no rush. And you got, you're like, I didn't expect it. Well, you tell people about it. Dude, you got to check this place out. So it gives you referrals, but it also enhances your persistency because you've exceeded expectation. The goal is not to meet expectation, but exceed expectation. Agents with terrible persistency, they don't even meet expectation. They're below expectation, leads to very poor persistency. Meeting expectation leads to good, persistency. Exceeding expectation leads to great persistency. The last thing is this would be like doing semi-annual reviews, annual reviews. It's also a way to increase profitability. Clients will look at policies in boxes. They look at it as I've got a plan for final expense. And if that's all they got, when you talk about mortgage protection, if they don't have that, that's separate. They'll add that. If they got a plan for mortgage protection, but you haven't talked to them about income replacement, they'll get a plan specifically for income replacement. They look at protection in boxes, final expenses, income replacement, legacy, mortgage protect. So when you're calling back in to the client and reviewing what they've already got, you'll be able to add additional policies. It is almost assuring. It's not what you think. You think like, well, they're going to feel like I'm trying to sell them an additional policy. No, no, no. They're going to be excited that you called. And when you show them that the plan that ends in 20 years, there's nothing that's there after that gap, and you identify a hole and provide another policy to them. If you can get 2, 3, 4 policies in one home, they ain't go nowhere. You built a client for life. You are the person they go to. You're the person that they talk to other people about. And so ensure that you do this, and I promise you, your profitability and your persistency, everything will go absolutely through the roof. So guys, I hope this served you and served you well. If this impacted you and you believe that this is going to help your profitability, share it with your team, share it with your agents, make sure they understand like, hey, this is a big deal. The first goal in business is to stay in business. You only stay in business if you're running a profitable business. So I love you guys. Make it a big week. Stay strong, be steadfast, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless you guys.